Okay, it's been a few days since my last video. I might as well go ahead and try to make a more important one here, especially with a lot more perspective and a lot more details. But I gotta check out how massive, when it came to comments, that my previous video blew up on. I mean, it can't be that big, right? Okay, what the hell happened? I'm gonna have to read and look through some of these because I can only imagine what could have actually been said because there was a lot of comments on that video, so I'm gonna have to see which ones I'm gonna have to handpick and look through. Bought the game 1 to 6 years ago. Do you mean 1 to 6 years ago? And it was bad. Started to play it 2 days ago. Again, it's so much better now from the UI and gameplay, and it feels much more realistic. In the 20 hours I played it, I had not a single bug. You've literally played it for 20 hours and you somehow automatically just suggest that the game that you are playing has zero bugs. Bro, I have over 1,000 hours. I have seen some stuff. What a rubbish video, basically not happy with the UI. Then somebody replies, the basis of the comment shows rubbish, check player count. I played for through Game Pass, 3 games in, I'm against prestige 10s. Tens? Can we please finish the sentences? That tells me there's not many players playing. You're a minority defending the game. Well, I mean, to be fair, technically speaking, I did defend it 6 months ago, but again, this was before the second gen engine update that they did. Numbers are going up. The UI is okay now after some tweaking. I seriously hope during this review that that is actually a true comment because that UI was god awful the first time that I went through it, as well as a little bit later in days. Right before the actual Post Malone clown event, I actually did try Hunt Showdown a bit. The UI was still terrible, so I would love to see if they actually did do some tweaking. But again, I have to go through this whole review, and I still got a lot of comments to go through, so let's go ahead and keep looking through these, because these get a little wild. Nothing is wrong with Hunt Showdown. You mean Hunt Showdown 1896? Because it's no longer Hunt Showdown apparently, so that kind of tells me that there already is going to be a couple of issues right as soon as I even get to the menu. UI is shit, yes, but what can you do? Stop crying about it and adapt to it. Now I can recruit infinitely faster. You don't want to? Okay, just quit the game and keep crying, I guess. And then people immediately reply, people are quitting, lol. Yeah, I quit. I don't think it's necessary to respond like that negatively and toxicity at all in my comment section. Like, that's kind of a little bit overdone. Then on top of that, like, yes, people are actually quitting Hunt Showdown. There's a lot of numbers to prove that otherwise, especially on the Steam charts. The game is slowly becoming worse, and I'm trying to figure out why, which is why I'm still trying to make this review. But yeah, no, it isn't necessary to say that when people are constantly quitting, and if people are quitting, that's usually a justification to tell me that there is something wrong with the game. But either way, let's move on. Game is brilliant, something different than Battle Royale. I am surprised I was able to read that without having a few brain cells lost. I stopped playing Warzone. Hunt is the way forward. Okay, and then people replied, it was better in the past. You could never know what you missed. Ironically, both those statements are true. I'm not going to deny those comments. That is actually 100% true on both those guys. Like, that is uncanny as to how exact they mean by that. It is crazy. Hunt was technically better in the past, but the thing that's funny is that the only reason it was better is because they improved on the first engine, but then the second one came out, and I don't know why, I still don't know why they decided to go with the path that they went for in Hunt. Do investors pull the strings? Because that would make a lot of sense. The recovery shot and rev bolt is what's bothered me the most, along with the failure to fix bugs when they continue to add new things and sell new skins. Well, a minute. Gonna debate if I might leave that in the video. But anyways, I actually never thought of it that way. Could it be an investor-based kind of situation? I wouldn't really know about that. That is actually a good question because technically speaking, investors like it when the product is just selling. It doesn't matter to them if it's doing good or it's doing bad. That's why when it comes to corporations, a lot of people hate investors in the gaming industry because usually what happens is that if a company has too much investors, the game itself usually goes down in its quality. When it has less investors, it for some reason gradually gets better. It's like a development team wants to do better for the game, but at the same time, they don't have to because they already have a lot of money made out of it. So that is a very good comment on that question alone. known, but it's really unknown to me, and it's going to be unknown to a lot of people. Hunt has issues, yes, but this video is some crybaby nonsense. Hunt is now a corporate zombie. I mean, yeah, that's... I never actually thought of it that way. I mean, technically speaking, that would be true. I mean, Crytek has a history of being brain dead when it comes to development for Hunt. They've made some horrid choices in Hunt in the past, but never to an extent that it is now. Lamo, what? Wait, what? Wait, what? What? Lamo, what till you discover Destiny 2? You'd be even more pissed at what they've done. The word was wait, my man. The word was wait. And yes, I do know about Destiny 2. I know what they did. That's why I never played it. Ever. On my PC. I refuse to touch it. But looks like we're all done with the comment section here. I mean, some of them got me to roll my eyes to the back of my head. At least it didn't cause me to smash my goddamn head to the keyboard. Even though there were some where my brain cells couldn't properly process what the hell I was reading. But either way, let's get right on to the review. I am done here reading these comment sections. Let me give you all the proper review that I need to do for Hunt Showdown 1896. Almost said 1996. But let's go right into it and let me see what I can find here. I'm finally going to fully review Hunt Showdown 1896. Well, first thing I gotta do is definitely adjust that gamma. Gotta make it about 1.20. That's usually how I played Hunt in the past. Looks like they went ham with a lot more audio quality here. Good God, I don't even know what 90% of this stuff is. Thankfully, there's an explanation for it. Now, all I gotta do is a region selection, and I should be able to finally pop right into the game. Or I could be invited right into the event without even getting a chance to really look at the main menu yet, but it looks like they added a shredder, the circus, and a supposedly new roaming boss, which looks like a combination of a bear and something else. Alright, finally into the actual main menu here, and I can see that the UI looks pretty much exactly the same. I don't see any major massive improvements that people were telling me about. Like, it's literally the same exact UI that I kind of figured would be the same as soon as I started up the game. I do appreciate them having a separate game mode added into the game though. I think that that is actually a pretty nice addition to add to Hunt Showdown, because it's never a bad idea to add more game modes into a video game. But that only bears the question, no pun intended, is the navigation actually easier? Well, the only way I can really answer that is by saying kind of. I'm going to have to say kind of, because it's still unbelievably hard to navigate through the UI in this game. Like I said before, I could talk for hours on end about the UI, but let's be honest, nobody likes it. It is one of the worst UIs I've ever experienced. Without the idea of understanding how this works with keyboard and mouse, it is unbelievably difficult to go through the UI. I had to go through a few practice sections just to understand how to go through the UI without being confused out of my mind. The one thing I especially never understood about the UI change in this game, especially when it comes to skins, is how difficult it is just to add one cosmetic to one weapon. You have to select the weapon, press the key on your keyboard, and go back again to reselect another skin for a different weapon. And the thing that I find absolutely aggravating about this is that it doesn't place you back on, oh, your selection of all your 3 slot weapons. No, you have to go back into the tool selection, press escape, go back, reselect it again, go back, reselect the skin for that weapon again if you ever plan to use it, and then on top of that, you have to do this on constant repeat. That is an unnecessary thing that is added to Hunt. I don't understand why that's even in the game. You could make the debate that you can only, you only really have to do it once per weapon, and once you have it selected, you never have to go back and reselect another skin, because now you have that skin permanently added into your menu for the weapon, which is, I guess, somewhat good. But if you have, let's say, a stupid amount of goddamn skins, and I know a lot of people have a ton of skins for different weapons and tools in this game, including consumables, then why does it have to be so complex to select the skin in the first place? Traits themselves also kind of didn't escape this problem either, although you can favorite traits now, which is something that Hunt needed for a long time. The thing that I find kind of weird is that even with traits themselves, sometimes the game would just constantly ask you if hey, are you sure you want to remove that? Hey, are you sure you want to put that on? It's like, if I'm selecting it and I can read it and I can see what it is, there's a reason I'm putting that on my character for the loadout, so I have a chance chance of actually surviving the hunt that I'm going to try to endure against other players and monstrosities trying to rip me apart. Thankfully, you could turn off the reminders for traits, but my god, if like the traits are that easy to navigate through and actually select, why in the world even have the option of giving the player a warning ahead of time like, hey, are you sure you want this, knowing full well that the player has already received enough information to either want or not want the trait they're even looking at. I'm not gonna lie, I think I spent the longest time trying to figure out what they did with the graphics settings, because Hunt has a history of having a little bit of confusing graphics, but before it wasn't really that much in depth about the graphics themselves because you only had to worry about certain things. Now you pretty much have to fix everything with their new engine. Every little thing is now adjustable in Hunt Showdown, which again, that's a good thing, but man, did they go a little too ham on this. There is so much stuff you could select through now, which is insane, although I didn't see an option to figure out how to fix grass or bushes a little bit more, which I think would have been effect quality of some kind. But there are so many different effects to go through now on the graphic settings that it just confuses and boggles my mind as to which one I should be messing with to begin with. It's one of those things where it's not too convoluted, but it's not too obvious either. You also have to adjust pretty much every other little thing in Hunt Showdown, which includes how you want your aim speed to be, how you want your HUD to be, how you want your FOV to be, which again, I love options like that in video games. It gives the player a lot more control as to what they're seeing on their screen graphic wise, which is kind of cool. But to a normal person, that would be pretty confusing. There's also one other thing that I noticed about Hunt Showdown that kind of threw me off really hard, and I was looking really hard through the main menu trying to figure out what they've done with this, and that would be the lore books, because it gave the game more of an identity to understand what is going on, plus it had a lot of good illustrations and a lot of explanation as to what was happening in the game, and I couldn't believe what I found. I had to search this up and I found out that they got rid of the lore books. They got rid of the lore books. The one thing that made Hunt Showdown more interesting, and they got rid of it. Lucky for me, there was a website that was at least dedicated to being able to bring back these lore books and actually illustrate them pretty well. And I have to say, why get rid of the lore books? This was the main reason why Hunt was so interesting. It gave you so much information about the weapons, the creatures, beautiful illustrations. Like, why throw all that hard work away? Now, I get that Hunt Showdown is just literally an extraction shooter, but let's be honest here. These were really good. These were amazing. There was so much lore in the game just around these books that I'm surprised that they removed them entirely. Why? Why? Just why? If you get rid of a game's lore, is it even technically the same game? Like, what was the point? What was the point of getting rid of the lore books? I'm asking people, because the funny thing is that when I talked about the fact that Hunt Showdown is running into an identity crisis, I wasn't far off. I was actually right on the money. If you get rid of a game's lore, it's going to make veteran players not want to play the game. And then on top of that, it's going to make new players come in and just say like, oh, okay, well, it's just a cowboy variant of an extraction shooter. There's no sauce. There's no lore. There's no actual story behind Hunt anymore. Like, why would you do that? Why would you get rid of a game's identity like that? Why would you put all that work into such a beautifully made lore and then just trash it? One last thing before I even have to talk about the gameplay, because the gameplay itself is pretty much the same as it's always been, but the thing that I find kind of aggravating is that everybody kept telling me that the new event and the new engine means that it must be a little bit more bug-free and glitch-free, right? Well, kinda. In one match, as I was grabbing recording footage of it, I actually discovered yet another glitch and or bug within the game, but to be fair, this was on the new carbine with the new aperture sights, so it could be just based on that. But as you can see, I'm literally getting blurs on my iron sight for no reason. It's supposed to not have any form of blur as you're trying to look through an aperture sight, and for some reason, it just randomly decides to do it out of nowhere. And that's only a little bit of bugs that I discovered. There was another bug where I tried to equip a contraband medkit while the slot was empty and the game refused to let me do it. I was rapidly clicking like a madman trying to get a single item in my tools section where the slot is empty, I clearly have a space for it, and the game refuses to let me put it in my inventory. On the fact alone that this game has problems with me just equipping inventory items, that is a massive problem, I'm just saying. Okay, let's finally go right into the meat and bones of this game, and that would be the gameplay. Let's see how this goes. Well, like I mentioned before, like many other extraction shooters, it's basically the same thing, except the only difference here is that you have to find clues in order to find the target to gain the bounty, which the bounty is basically just a giant cash grab after you defeat the boss. I think about a majority of everybody knows how to beat every single boss already in Hunt Showdown, and there really hasn't been too much of an add-on for the regular 2-slot type of bosses, which is just Spider, Assassin, Butcher, and Scrapbeak. They haven't changed these four, thankfully, and they've also managed to not add any new bosses from then, but they did add a new roaming boss, which is the bear, to be fair. Toolboxes and medkits are also still available in Hunt Showdown, so it's nice to see that the game is still practically the same, which is something that kind of shocks me considering of how much stuff they apparently removed, especially when it comes to the game's lore. That, I believe, is honestly going to be something that's going to affect the game very highly for me, and I'm going to explain why later on. After grabbing all 3 bounties, me and my team finally decided to go ahead and go underground to try to deal with the players trying to kill off the boss. And the thing that's kind of difficult about this is that there were new updates into the maps to change certain areas of entryways, so I have no idea how underground is at this point. I decided to go ahead and just let my team go first because of the fact that I have nothing but long range weapons.
Got one.
Might as well try to sneak in a free res. Never mind.
Hey, use your carnival ability on it.
Well, that one mistake could have killed me if he didn't have a shotgun.
Down there at the doorway. Wrapping around.
Now, I know in Hunt Showdown that setting bodies on fire isn't really as essential as it used to be, but it's still a pretty effective way to make sure that players wrap around to try to put out their teammates.
Somebody else is here. I heard footsteps.
Well, that's enough reason of a call-out for me to set that body on fire. One thing I also forgot to mention about Hunt Showdown is the decision making you have to do when it comes to working as a team or even as a solo, where making one decision could end up resulting in taking your life, or it could end up saving your entire team if you focus and work well with them. Okay, I seriously gotta lower the aim speed on that. Alright, I'm getting really sick and tired of these dodges. Dodge this.
I think we're done. He got one, I got one, and you got the last one.
Sweet! Alright, I think it's about time that I wrap up this review. There's a couple of key points that I want to talk about when it comes to Hunt Showdown, because these are the key points I illustrated even in my previous video, despite the fact that I didn't really go into far detail into it, and for that I do apologize. However, with all the evidence that I even have with this review, what can I say about Hunt Showdown as of this point? I would have to go through the negatives and positives here of Hunt Showdown, so let's just go ahead and break those down. Let's start with all the negatives here first, and some of these are actually pretty big factors here. We got rid of the previous lore books, which illustrated a lot of things that were going on in Hunt Showdowns, and the weapons and monsters as well, so we have even less lore in the game. So for both lore and story, and I'm going to put them both in the same section here because it's still just both a negative, but I'm not going to count them as two negatives here. For both being in one negative, that is a major drop for a lot of players. This next one is pretty obvious, and that is the UI itself. Sorry if I didn't include that to be first, but the thing is that getting rid of a lore and story to me is much more important than the game's crappy UI. But yeah, no, the UI, hands down, horrible. That needs to be changed. That's gonna stay at a negative. This next one might actually come as a shock to some people who have never played Hunt Showdown, but that has to be the bugs and glitches. The bugs and glitches in this game are still prominent, and they are still patching them, I'll give them that, but every single time they manage to do a patch for this game, there's always more bugs and glitches somehow, and even returning ones that come back to the game randomly. So that right there is a major negative. One thing I personally forgot about, and I kind of feel bad about it as well, because Trials mode is completely gone from Hunt Showdown, but the reason people love Trials mode so much is because it rewarded the player for being able to complete certain challenges that the game offered in a separate game mode. So with the removal of trial mode, which was basically its own form of a game mode, that is a negative, because you don't remove game modes from a game, you add to them. So unfortunately, that is also another negative. One last one that I got put in, which is really just a very, very minor negative. There's plenty of ways to go around with this, and you can definitely look up certain ways to fix it, and that would be the confusing settings that Hunt Showdown has, because graphically wise, this game can get really confusing as to what graphics you need, and it could affect certain aspects of the game that you would rather fix versus have it the same way it is now. So that is a negative, but it's a very minor one, so I'm gonna have to give that one a slight pass, but it's still a negative nonetheless. Okay, let's talk about the positives finally. For one of the major positives, it has to be the gameplay. I'm glad that the gameplay is still the same in Hunt Showdown even years later. The gameplay is still very solid, so I have to give it a major plus for that. That is something I'm glad that they did not bother to change, because it doesn't really have to be changed, and they have improved on it. So that deserves a positive. Another one that might shock some people is the sound and music. Sound and music in this game is very crisp, it's very clear, it's even done some improvements over the years, so that deserves to definitely have a positive. I kind of expected that to be the case, but either way, still a good thing, and it's still a positive thing to add. Another one I really gotta add is definitely the events. The events themselves, like I said, I don't mind the events. I think that adding events into Hunt Showdown is more of a good thing than it is a bad thing, but if you're going to add events, please do not take away things that Hunt Showdown already has, such as the lore books and everything else. But again, events, not a bad thing, definitely a plus. Another one that I definitely have to add for sure is the free in-game currency you're able to earn. You're able to earn every single bit of blood bonds just by playing the game on a weekly basis. Even though it's dumbed down to only 50 blood bonds a week, if you missed weeks now, you actually have a chance of regathering the ones you missed. So again, free currency into a game to earn skins and earn a bunch of other important essentials such as cosmetics and a bunch of other free character skins. That's a plus. It's not much of a plus because it's literally just cosmetics, but that's still a plus. Alright, I'm already at the very end of this video, guys. Hunt Showdown is in a really weird state of play, but that does not necessarily mean that it's bad. I did kind of drop the ball a little bit by saying that Hunt Showdown is completely ruined, but the main reason for that was because they've added so much changes and so many things and took away a lot of things that Hunt Showdown already had that I feel like was not necessary at all. If you're trying to retain an old player base, you're not going to be able to retain an old player base by changing what you already have completely. And that is the thing about Hunt Showdown. They added so much stuff and changed so many things that Hunt Showdown doesn't really feel like it's Hunt Showdown anymore. Hence the name Hunt Showdown 1896. But that being said though, they are adding new things that kind of make the game feel more closer to originally what Hunt Showdown did. They added a couple of new gimmicks and new tools to be able to help you out. And then on top of that, they're fixing, nerfing, and always trying to find ways to balance the game. So I don't think that Hunt Showdown is going to be stuck in a bad state of play forever. That's always been the case for Hunt Showdown. Even when I reviewed it 6 months ago and talked about the game a little bit more thoroughly during that time when it was in Desolation, Desolation was damn near perfect. I'm surprised that they did not take more notes from Desolation. There was no need for a new UI. There was no need to change certain things from Desolation. The thing that was funny about Desolation is that after that event was over, that's when the player base was really high up because they made so many changes that helped players throughout the entire game. And it even made veterans and new players coming in happy as well. So if they could just get it back to the way it was without changing the engine, I would believe it's possible. But overall, Hunt Showdown, even after everything I said, even after all the bugs and glitches and prominent issues that they had and removal of things that I really loved, which was the lore books. I don't know why they got rid of that. Crytek, you really made me so depressed when you did that. It's still a good game, but the problem is that it's encouraging new players, but it's not helping the old veteran players whatsoever. I feel like what they're trying to do is going too mainstream, and that's really what affects Hunt Showdown 1896 in this case. But either way, hope you all enjoyed the video. Welcome to a new year as well. Happy New Year, everybody, if I haven't said it already. Either way, I really hope you all enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed it that much. This has been EpicGamingGuru. I will be back to make more content on other games, other reviews, and a whole bunch of other stuff. But if you do enjoy Hunt Showdown, good for you. If you don't, feel free to tell me in the comment section what really does bother you in Hunt Showdown. I've already made all my key points. I literally just spit out all my facts. You all can go ahead and tell me what you all think, and I'll see you all in the next one.